Hello, everybody. I'm back. This week's podcast will be probably a little longer than the others, and maybe even a little sooner. Maybe you'll get it earlier than the other ones. 'Cause I'm on the road right now, and I gotta go when technology allows me to. All right, so let's get right into it. Today's topic, or this week's topic, is called dun dun dun, love your loans. So this one really hit home. I was compelled to make this podcast based on a bunch of advice that I've been hearing and reading, and just kind of being over the traditional advice that people have in terms of loans and dealing with them, and everybody pretty much is saying the same thing, but they don't realize that they are. So yeah, and then I had an epiphany otherwise. So here we go. All right, everybody has advice, right? Specifically, everybody wants to tell you how to deal with loans. Most Americans are in debt of some form. Student loans are like the highest as they've ever been. Obviously, there's a reason for that, right? We've all been bamboozled. It's a business. But what I've noticed is that everybody pretty much says the same thing, right? Get rid of your loans as soon as possible. Sell everything. Liquidate your assets, your soul, right? Anything to get out of debt. Everybody says that. Every podcast, every blogger, that's all the magazines. They tell you this stuff like you don't already know that. But it's like I also noticed that most people paint debt as an extremely negative thing to be avoided at all costs. Pun intended. And which can be easily avoided, right? So they make it seem like it's something that you should avoid and that you can avoid about that. They say things like, oh, just cut back on your shopping and your Starbucks and your shoes and, work more hours and pay your bills, right? They say this as though millions of people could be magically lifted out of debt if only they were to do these 3 simple things, right? Now, certainly I think that everybody's advice is well-meaning. It always is. It usually is, right? The problem with this line of thinking, though, is that it completely ignores the fact that most people have accrued debt as a means of survival, right? Not just because they're addicted to department stores. That's not the case. Let me repeat. Most people in debt are trying to survive and would gladly part ways with their debt if the opportunity presented itself, right? So as if owing someone isn't stressful enough, the stigma that is attached to being in debt makes for a very stressful mental space, right? So it's twofold in the U.S., right? We say debt, debt, debt. It's bad, it's bad. It's like a red mark on your paper. You think about it like that from a kid. And on top of that, there's the debt itself, right, that you know that you have, and then there's a stigma on top of it. People and society makes you feel subhuman if you have debt. As though society, specifically American society, is saying like, oh, well, since you're in debt, then you must deserve to be depressed, right? Also, in addition to that, it's your own fault, right, that you owe people. And I just got to say that all of this is nonsense. It's nonsense, right? In most situations, like, it's not even that simple. And as the saying goes, that which you resist persists, which just means that when you resist something, you're giving it energy, and that's what makes it remain in your life. Same with debt. It's the same with everything. Which is why I say, love your loans, baby. All right, let me get into this, because you probably think I've lost my mind. And like I said, you could be right, but hear me out. First of all, loans are life. Loans are life. Our very financial system, capitalism, is based on loans. Did you know that if everybody repaid their loans, everybody in the world who owes something big, something small, to your grandma, to your sister, to the bank, if everybody, and then the banks who owe, right, if they paid back the entities that they owe, personal loans, business loans, student loans, you got it, every loan under the sun. If everybody repaid those or wanted to repay their loans on the same day, there wouldn't be enough money in the world to do so. Let that sink in. There wouldn't be enough physical currency for everybody to repay their loans. Why is that? Well, because our system of capitalism creates money out of thin air. We've literally created a situation where there's more electronic or theoretical currency than there is real currency in circulation, right? So I learned all of this in grad school, right? I studied business, so I get it. I get interest rates. I get what those things mean. I get credit scores. I know all of that. And I graduated at the top of my class too. So that's all irrelevant. This is just putting aside my education, quote unquote, and getting into the reality of the situation and viewing our financial system from a higher mind, so to speak. So the best way that I can describe this is when you put money into a bank, physical cash, right? Let's say you take $100, you give them a $100 bill, it draws interest. So when you withdraw your $100, you'll get the interest too, right? So let's say, 10%, okay, $110. You withdraw, sweet. But where did that $10 come from? You only deposited $100. So where did it come from? On paper, it looks like you have more because of the interest. So your account balance will say $110, but in reality, that interest, that $10 does not exist. It was created when they typed it into the ledger. They annotated your account, right? Because it accrued interest, you now have $110. That $10 bill does not exist in reality. The only thing that exists is what you put in. That's that physical $100 bill that you held in your hand. Where did the $10 come from, right? You were able to withdraw that because, here it goes, y'all. The bank borrowed it from somebody else. They borrowed it from somebody else, right? So that you were able to take out the amount that you have on paper or in theory. This is also why when you deposit a check or something, it's not all immediately available, especially if it's over a certain amount. Why? Because the bank don't got it. They don't have your money, baby. They don't have it. All of this is just theory. It's all on paper. It's all electronic now, right? It's numbers on a screen. They don't really have all of that. That's why they say, well, you get 50% of all deposits are available immediately, and then you got to wait 24 hours or something like that. Why? Because they got to make sure that they are meeting their reserves, right? Which is the feds tell banks you got to have at least this percentage of each account holder's deposit on hand in case people want their money back. Which is why during the Great Depression, when they were run on banks and stuff like that, they didn't have the money because they created it. They borrowed and loaned, and the money that you put into the account, they loan it to somebody else, and it all goes back and forth. The green grass grows all around, right? Or should I say the green cash? But yes, they don't have it. It's just numbers on the screen. So capitalism is a trick. And if you haven't realized that yet, sorry to tell you, our very lives are based around debt. Capitalism not only thrives, but it functions off of debt. So keep that in mind when bankers or people in suits are making you feel bad about your debt. That's how capitalism works. That's the other half of it that they're not going to tell you, right? All right. Second thing, you were born into debt. All right? Whether or not you could pay the bill that resulted from your birth, the hospital bill, that's irrelevant. Don't tell me, oh, well, yeah, but I was able to pay it and my parents had health insurance. I don't want to hear that. The fact of the matter is that the moment that you entered this physical plane, you accrued debt. You had a bill. Ta-da! Oh, a beautiful baby. Oh, take a look at this beautiful bill, right? It happens. It is the same as when you die. Somebody's going to have to pay the piper. When you die, you have to pay taxes, right? You have to be buried or whatever you want. But it all costs money. It all costs money. Being born costs money, living costs money, dying costs money in this country. So when you keep that in mind, debt and loans and the concept of debt, loses its hold on you. It's stigma when you realize it's all around me. It's pervasive as oxygen. Like, that's how it works. Debt is inevitable. You say, no, it's not. No, it's not. I pay all my bills. I do everything I'm supposed to do, right? Speak for yourself. What about mortgages? I don't know anybody. Most Americans, let's say that, cannot cash out on a house. They can't be like, oh, well, 100,000, perfect. We'll take it, right? Wrap it up. Like, no, you go to the banks, right? And you take out a mortgage, which is a fancy word for a loan on a house, right? A loan for a house. Auto loans, right? Most people don't cash out on new cars. You say, well, people should just start buying used cars anyway. Yeah. They could and they should, but then that's a whole nother sector of our economy that's going to be negatively impacted because of capitalism. People got to spend money, right, in order for our system to stay afloat. So there we have auto loans, right, student loans, right. All of these things, like, that people forget about, that are debt and that are forms of loans that are a part of everybody's daily life, right. So, some we say it's good debt, some we say it's bad debt, whatever that means, right? Whatever that means. Because student loans are considered good debt until you have too many, right? Until you can't pay it. So it's all a game. It's trickery of words and bankers and capitalism and all of that, right? And they say, oh, pay interest. Pay this money that doesn't exist. We're creating money on the screen. We take out loans, baby. All right, there are also different types of debt. So most people think of debt as money. No. You can be in debt for other things. There's time debt, right? What do we say? Oh man, I gotta spend more time with my grandpa, right? We spend time like we spend money. Why? Because it is a form of currency in our present reality, right? The act of neglect is simply a time debt, right? I owe you more time. Oh, this parent neglected their child. What does that mean? They didn't spend enough time with their child, right? That's debt. Moral debt. Think about, I don't know, say the United States and what they owe to descendants of African slaves, the slaves that they brought here, and Native Americans, right? That's a moral debt. The United States has to repay that. One way or another, that will be repaid. Fact. Energy debt, right? Energy debt. A deficit of energy. Think about when you're tired. Think about, again, time. The best way I can describe this is going into a restaurant and seeing two people sitting at a table looking at their phones. Nobody's talking, right? Energy debt. Where is their energy going? It's going into their devices, not to each other. So they have to make up that energy one way or another, right? Or their relationship will suffer. Food debt, right? We know what that looks like. Starvation, lack, clothing debt, right? We know what that looks like when you don't have enough of something. Spiritual debt. People who aren't connected with the natural and spiritual world around them, right? They have a spiritual debt. They might have zero financial debt and status and everything that comes along with it. But at the end of the day, they say things like, I'm empty on the inside, or I'm dead on the inside, or I'm like a ship with no rudder, right? Like, I'm just coasting through life. Like, what am I doing here? I don't have a purpose. That's all spiritual debt, baby. So there's different types of debt. And when you know that, yet again, you can use that information to empower yourself against the negative stigma associated with financial debt in our country. All right. Next, happiness is your birthright, right? That is also another reason why you should love your loans. Happiness is your birthright. You aren't your debt. Let me repeat. You aren't your debt, right? You are not your debt. India Ari says she ain't her hair. You ain't your debt. You're not the numbers on the screen. And those numbers, they're not even real. Like, and I'll give you an example about that later, like a literal example from my life of just how deeply that statement goes. But stressing about something only makes it worse. So stressing about your debt is only going to make it worse. And it does not reduce the amount that you owe. Right? So stressing is a double whammy. It doesn't help you at all because it doesn't change anything. And it hurts your psyche, right? Your mental state, your emotional state, and eventually your physical if you allow it to, right? That's where cancer comes from. All right. But this is all part of the game. Because first of all, we live in a society that feeds off of stress, drama, and fear, right? We invented reality shows. And what are reality shows? What do they largely consist of? Stress, drama, and fear, right? Exactly. We have a political environment right now that feeds off of stress and drama and fear, right? And these things make money, right? People like that. People buy into it. So how it works is that the powers that be, right? Our society tells you to stress over any debt that you have, right? And to fear the fact that you have debt too, the outcome, right? To think about the future and how you're going to pay that debt, right? Which creates drama and all that. So you think, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about my debt and how am I going to repay it, right? In the future, right? Never now. You're not living in the moment. They have you thinking, living in the future, which is not good in and of itself. But the powers that be want you to remain stressed and at a lower vibration. They want this. It's by design, right? Why? Because the more you're stressed and the longer you're stressed, then the harder you work. And what do when you work? You produce for them, right? And you advance their dreams, their agendas. So, and you do all this, why? So that you can repay them. So this just sounds like everything benefits them. Like, you're being stressed about your debt that you took out to survive, and that you're working, 80-hour weeks to pay off. All benefits, somebody else. That doesn't seem quite right? Think about it. If the United States really wanted to get people debt-free, if that was what they were genuinely interested in, then there would be no such things as payday lenders, right? The worst offenders. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Predatory lending is a billion-dollar business because lending in and of itself is a lucrative business, right? It's a lucrative business. Why? Because we get to create things. We get to create money. It's not like being an artist or a writer or anything like that where you have tangible results. Nope. Lending, I get to write something on a paper and say, create this money. Give me back what I loaned you physically, and then create out of thin air the interest, right? The extra amount that I'm charging you, right? So, again, thinking about things in your life keeps them there. Focusing your energy on something keeps it there. So why would you continue to energize what you perceive to be a negative situation, right? Why would you keep thinking about it? So, this has been, I think, an eye-opening podcast for a lot of people. But I'm always about results, right? What is advice? What is knowledge without results? So what can you do if you're drowning in debt, so to speak, right? That's that negative word again. And you have every intention to pay it off, but you lack not the will to do so, but the resources to do so. There's hope. There's plenty you can do. Plenty you can do. First of all, remember that perception is reality. The law of attraction says to simply change what you can about a situation, right? Which is always your perception. That's the only thing. Even if you're in a war-torn country, if there's chaos all around you and literally you're helpless, hopeless, right? Defenseless, you can always change how you perceive something. That is the power that you have. In changing how you view money, you should also change how you perceive debt. Dun, dun, dun. Yet again, that is something else nobody is talking about. They say things like, oh, be happy, be positive, change your views toward money. But nobody tells you to change how you perceive debt too. Those go hand in hand. So maybe if you're struggling to get out of debt, it might not be that You have negative views of money, right? Maybe you cleared that energy, but you still have a negative perception of debt, right? So view debt not as a burden, but as a positive, even necessary part of life, which it is. It is. Again, who cashes out on a house? Nobody. Nobody cashes out on a house, right? Fact. Well, of course, somebody does, but most people, no, they're not cashing out. They're taking out mortgages. So it's necessary. It is necessary. It's just how it works. Love your debt, right? Love your debt. View it as a stepping stone to getting where you want to be in life, and not only where you want to be, but what you want to have in life, right? You want a house, so you take out a loan so that you do that, right? Same for an education, a car, healthcare, all of that. Now, in doing these things, you'll also release your resistance to your debt, which will make it miraculously disappear from your life. Now, of course, you'll still have to do stuff to reduce it. I'm not that, crazy at this point. You still, of course, work toward reducing your debt, but it'll happen faster, right? Because it won't feel like a burden. It's like whistle while you work, right? If you're working to pay off your debt, or if you're doing something to pay off your debt and you're happy, in the way that you view it is as something you have to do, and it's not this negative connotation associated with it, right? It'll happen faster, right? And you just might even manifest a miracle like I did. All right, so I mentioned earlier that I was going to tell you a story, true story, a real life about me, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. I'm not even gonna lie and say I sat down and I said, I want my debt to disappear. Nope, I just changed the way that I viewed it, and the universe took care of the rest. No lie. Like, I couldn't have seen this coming. I couldn't have orchestrated this even if I wanted. I had a situation where I believe that I was being overcharged on debt, and of course, it's always about student loans, right? That's all it's all about. And basically, I'd done everything I was supposed to do, but they were still charging me interest. And I felt that that wasn't right. And in my heart, I felt that that wasn't right. I spoke with them, and every time I spoke with a customer service rep, they kept telling me, like, well, this is our policy. But I'm like, this isn't how it's supposed to be, though. Like, I thought that if I did XYZ, then this ABC would happen, right? And ABC did not involve me accruing that amount of debt over the time period that I was specifying. And it did not make sense to me. It did not sit well with me. It never did. And so this happened, like, I guess for like a year, at least a year, I think. Yeah, maybe a little more. No less than a year. It didn't sit well with me. And I just could not bring myself to accept it, even though each representative would tell me, like, oh, this is how it works. And I'm like, no, it's not. This is not right. So one day, I call yet again. I get another bill for interest that I don't believe that I owe. And I think it was for past, something in the past. That's what they were trying to hit me with. Like, oh, well, at this point, you were supposed to have paid this much interest. It was like a retro, prorated thing. And I'm like, how does that make sense? And so I got a lady, and I explained it to her, like, I don't really think this bill is justified, blah, 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 this is why. And she was like, well, blah, blah, blah. She reiterated company policy like everybody else did. And so I was just like, I don't think so. So while we're talking about it, she's like choking. She's like eating popcorn apparently. And she starts to choke. And so she was like, oh, just a second. And I'm like laughing, and I'm like, are you okay? Like, 'cause that was random to me. Like, what are you doing eating popcorn? What are you doing choking? Like, everything about that was just random. And so I was laughing, like, please don't die while you're helping me. And I kind of made a joke out of it because it was hilarious. And so she laughed too, and blah, blah, blah. Whatever magic happened in that little moment of our connecting, she was like, okay, she put me on hold. And she's like, you know what, I'm going to check into this. I'm going to talk to my supervisor about your situation. And so she did. And when she came off hold, she was like, okay, well, I'm alive. You know, the kernel has been dislodged from my throat, which I was happy to hear, of course. And then in the click of a button, I kid you not, click, oh, yep, all that interest that they've been trying to get you to pay for the last year, gone. Just gone. Hundreds of dollars that every time I called, they said I owed, that I did not believe in my heart, in my soul, I owed. Literally in a click of a button. She tapped the keyboard and it was like, gone. Don't worry about that. That's the past. I was just like, wow. All this time. Like, and I didn't stress over it. I had let it go. I released it like, well, eventually, I don't think this is right. I'm gonna keep fighting it, and if the universe sees fit, then eventually it'll be paid. But right now, I just know this is not right. And just that quickly, hundreds of dollars in interest and created money had just been eliminated from my account. Like, done. And she just said it like, voila. Oh, don't worry about that. Disregard any other bills and blah blah blah. You're done. So it can happen. That's what I want to tell you. Like, it wasn't that I had stopped trying to, make amends or to pay it. Or that wasn't the issue at all. It was just that particular aspect, that amount, I did not feel like I was justified. And I let it go, and I got a miracle. So it can happen, y'all. All right. Second suggestion. Remember your power. Right? Debt isn't a part of your identity, right? And at the end of the day, nobody owns you. Nobody owns you. You cannot be detained for owing money. Despite how things look in our criminal justice system and all that, different podcasts for a different day. Nobody can physically detain you for owing them. Nobody, right? We've outlawed debtors' prisons. So you have officially been set free. Keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind. You're healthy, you're alive, you're well, you're young. I don't care if you're 80, you're young, right? Like, you're free, whatever. Nobody can owe you just because, of something, a piece of paper or a number on a screen, which can be wiped out with a glitch or with a lady choking on, a kernel of popcorn. Like, all right. Number 3. Remember, debt is no scarlet letter to be worn on your clothes, right? It is nothing to be ashamed of. Release the stigma associated with that, right? There's no shame in obtaining an education or a house or medical services, right? There's no shame in that. So why should there be shame associated with the process that it takes to get that, right? And we pick and choose what we want to say is good debt and bad debt. And, when you take out the loan, it's good debt. But then when you're behind on your mortgage, oh, that's bad debt. What? No, there's no shame in it, right? Remember that, number 4, you are not alone, right? Look around you, baby. Look to your left. Look at the person to your right. Remember that? Yep, all of those people got debt. They all do. All of them in some form, right? Except if you're maybe in, like, I don't know, a millionaire's circle or something, then maybe. But otherwise, no. Those people to your left and your right, and probably even in front of you and behind you and behind them and in front of them too, they always got debt, baby. They all got debt, right? It makes the world go round, literally. So why not celebrate it? All right? 5th thing, last thing. Do not let that paralyze you. Don't let it paralyze you, right? When you have bill collectors calling or, like I said, the stigma associated with it, you're looking at your account balance, and it can be paralyzing. It can make you just want to just check out from this world. You can have a nervous breakdown, and people have. Don't let that happen to you, right? Just think about it like this. Would you stop moving just because something was following you? Right? So they say, oh no, debt, it follows you everywhere you go, and my credit score. Right. But as long as you know that you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about stigma and what other people think or your bankers think. That's their problem, not yours. That's on them. If that's how they want to perceive you or judge you, and they have no idea that you'll be like a millionaire and a year because you're working on your dreams and all that. Like, who cares what they think? They probably got debt too, right? True story. So if something was following you, if something bad that you associated with negativity, right? If you were being stalked, for example, would you stop? Would you just stay in your house? No, you would fight back. You would be empowered. You would reclaim your power, and you would still leave the house and you would still live your life, but you would take the necessary measures in order to neutralize, right, the threat, or neutralize that which is following you, right? You deal with it. It's what we do. All right. So to wrap this up, embrace your debt and it will go away. Literally, right? You'll think of fun ways to make money to pay it down, right? And then it won't seem so daunting, and you'll eventually and ultimately liberate yourself, right? Embrace it. Give it a hug, baby. That's your baby. Like, don't fight it anymore. It'll just be stronger. You're just energizing it, right? Free your mind and the rest will follow. All right, y'all. Peace, love, and light, people. Until next week, have a good day or a good week.